Islam, if there is anything lovely, if there is anything desirable, if there's anything within the reach of man that is worthy of praise, is it not knowledge? And yet, who is it that obtaineth it? The statesman proclaimeth that he have it. The ruler of the people claimeth the praise of it, but findeth the subject that he possesses it. Evil is not requisite to man, neither vice can be necessary to be tolerated. Yet how many evils are committed by the convenience of the laws? How many crimes committed by the decree of the council? But be wise, O rulers, and learn, O thou that art to command the nations. One crime authorized by thee is worse than the escape of 10 from punishment. At this time, I'd like to recite the Moorish American prayer because this is the source from which we draw our strength. Allah, the Father of the universe, the Father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Allah is my protector, my guide, and my salvation by night and by day through his holy prophet, Drew Ali. Amen. First off, I'd like to rise, walking in Jerusalem, just like John, giving praise to Allah, the author, the creator, the governor of the world, almighty, eternal, and incomprehensible, the one who stretches forth the heaven with his hands, who have described with his fingers the courses of the stars, who set it bounds to the ocean that it cannot pass, and said to the stormy winds, be still. I'd like to give honor to the lily of the valley, the bright and morning star, talking about none other than our holy and illustrious prophet, Noble Drew Ali. I'd like to give honor to Prophet Noble Drew Ali because it was he who reached down into the watery grave of hatred, slander, lewdness, murder, theft, and everything that harmed, and set you and me back upright on our feet again. I'd like to give honor to the forerunner to the prophet, Noble Drew Ali, Marcus Moses Garvey. I'd like to give honor to Marcus Moses Garvey because this brother is from St. Ann's Bay, Jamaica, meaning that he is not Negro, colored, or black. He already have a nationality. So often you hear people talk about the Holy Prophet Noble Drew Ali and his forerunner, but he don't tell you, or you don't know, that his forerunner had a nationality. Everybody have a nationality except you and me. And today, this is going to be part of my subject matter. My two subject matters today is, we just had last month, as we say, Black History Month. We just had that. And the reason why we had it is because that we as a people was lost in the wilderness and needed somebody to come and bring them out of darkness into the light. And that was Prophet Noble Drew Ali. So that is going to be my subject matter for this evening. But before I go any further, I want to read from the Moorish Holy Quran, the book of the seven seals, that none was able to open, and read from the sacred pages the messages of purity and love. So after I read this, then I'm going to get into it. Now, page 57, chapter 46. And the title of the chapter is The Beginning of Christianity, and is read on this wise. The foundation of Christianity began in Rome. The Roman nation found the first church of whom crucified Jesus of Nazareth for seeking to redeem his people from under the Roman yoke and law. Jesus himself was of the true blood of the ancient Canaanites and Moabites and the inhabitants of Africa, seeking to redeem his people in those days from the pressure of the pale-skinned nations of Europe. Rome crucified him according to their law. Then Europe had peace for a long time until Muhammad I came upon the scene and fulfilled the works of Jesus of Nazareth. The holy teachings of Jesus was to the common people, to redeem them from under the great pressure of the hands of the unjust, that the rulers and the rich would not oppress the poor, also that the lion and the lamb may lay down together, and neither will be harmed when morning came. These teachings were not accepted by the rulers, neither by the rich, because they loved the principles of the 10th commandments. Through the 10th commandments, the rulers and the rich lived, while the poor suffered and died. The lamb is the poor people. The lion is the ruler and the rich. And through love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, all men are one and equal to seek their own destiny and to worship under their own vine and fig tree after the principles of the holy and divine laws of their forefathers. All nations of the earth in these modern days are seeking peace. But there is but one true and divine way that peace may be obtained in these days, and it is through love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice being taught universally to all nations in all lands. Thus, we just had a reading of the Moorish Holy Quran, divinely prepared by our holy prophet Noble Drew Ali for our earthly and our divine salvation. Praise Allah and honor to the prophet Noble Drew Ali. We're dealing with serious issues today, and I want to talk about two serious issues that's on the table. The first one I want to talk about is a couple of days ago, they had what is known as Negro History Month. You have that for 30 days. Some people call it Colored History Month. Some people call it Black History Month. And some people call it Negro History Month. And the bad part about it, or the good part about it, mostly everybody that I come in contact with, mostly everybody who went to school with me or went to school and that who I have come in contact with, supposed to be so brilliant. But at this time, they're calling themselves black. Now, the only black flag I know is the one kill roaches. And when you call yourself black, you're saying that you are not a part of the human family. And I'm going to explain that to you right now. March 2nd, I posted something on social media. And in March 2nd, this is when Morocco got its independence. Now we know that Morocco got its independence March 2nd, 1956, from under the French rule. And this is kind of touchy because oftentimes you would hear these two people come on social media, Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama. These two individuals will come on social media and say that Morocco is the oldest and the first nation on earth that had a treaty with the United States. But I beg to differ there because something is wrong with this picture. Because how could Morocco be the first nation on earth that had a treaty with the United States when March 2nd, 1956, Morocco got its independence. So now, if Morocco got its independence, March 2nd, 1956, from under the French rule, where were they then? Who put them into slavery? And if they have their independence, what transpired during that time to take them away from being legally established as a person of color, as you say? So let me explain to you. Now, we know that in 711 AD, this is when the Moors, now I'm not talking about Negro, black, and colored, nor Ethiopian, because Ethiopian means something divided. This is when the Moors got his independence from under the French rule, but in 711, the Moors went into Spain. And the reason why we went into Spain in 711, because we went into Spain to give the Europeans freedom. That's how we're going to use that word. In 711, we went in Spain because our objective was to bring the European nations out of the slave mentality of thinking other than who they really are. So now let me explain what I'm trying to say. In 711, when we went into Spain, we fell in 1492. In 1492 is when the last stronghold of the Moors fell in Granada, Spain. Now I'm talking about Granada, and I'm talking about Spain. So now, if this transpired in 1492, you see I just read a chapter. And the chapter that I just read was talking about the foundation of Christianity. And it said the foundation of Christianity began in Rome, and it was the Roman nations that founded the first church, of whom crucified Jesus of Nazareth for seeking to redeem his people from under the Roman yoke and law. So now the reason why our job was to go into Europe. See, now I'm talking about going into Europe. See, because you have to understand, during that time, Europe was not even in existence. During that time, it was no place on earth was known as Europe. Europe was not even in existence. Everybody was known as Asiatic. Because when you're talking about Asiatic, and when you're talking about European, one of them don't exist. Because all of those who call themselves European are Asiatic. Now we know that in 711, let me go back there. When we went into Spain to give Europe civilization, our objective was to bring them out of darkness. And bring them out of darkness into the marvelous light. So how can you bring someone out of darkness into the marvelous light? Now, go back here. It was brought to my attention recently that we hear brothers and we hear sisters talking about reparation. Everybody is talking about reparation. I heard a friend of mine on the show earlier today, and he was talking about reparation and how is we going to get some reparation from these Europeans when they don't even want to give us a Bible. So when we're talking about reparation, let me get some understanding of this, because understanding is the rock on which man builds himself. And if you don't have understanding of who you are and who your forefathers were, then ain't no need of looking for no reparation. Because the only way that we as a people will be able to talk about reparation, because I'm hearing people talk about reparation every day and they beating up the European nations. Why beat up the European nation? Well, the lesson today is for you and me to deal with who we are and who we were, and we'll be able to deal with these issues. Because Juali said there's but one supreme issue, that our people need to redeem that which was lost, and it comes through the above statement. that the lion and the lamb will lay down, and the only way you could do that is proclaim your nationality. So now we went into Spain in 711. We fell in 1492. Now we know what took place in the 15th century. 711, 1492. Now let's look at the 15th century now, because 1492, 1492, 93, 94, 95, 96, 97, 98, 99, Negro, colored, and black. So now, when we're talking about 1492, we got to look at the 15th century now. Because when you're talking about 1492 and the 15th century, it tells you that the foundation of Christianity began in Rome. The Roman nations founded the first church, of whom crucified Jesus of Nazareth for seeking to redeem his people from under the Roman yoke and law. So when you call yourself Negro, colored, and black, these are names that was given to you in the 15th century. Because in the 15th century or the 14th century, because we went in Spain in 711, the Moors was in control. Moors wasn't calling themselves Negro, colored, and black, because Negro is a name given to a river in West Africa by Moors because it contained black water. Colored is anything that has been painted, stained, varnished, or dyed. In black, the only black flag I know is the one that killed roaches. And black, according to science, means death. So everybody now is talking about the European. But when we talk about the European, we say us black people, us Negroes, and us colored. But these are slave names. And when you begin to talk about slave names, these are they who call themselves Negro, colored, and black. So now, in the 15th century, Rome took over. They took over and they changed the ether. What I mean by changing the ether, they put something on us that we didn't have on us before. They took away and gave us some slave names. The slave name that they gave us is Negro, colored, and black. Man today is what his forefathers were yesterday. And there's no one who is able to change man from the decent nature of his mother and father unless his power extend beyond the great universal creator, Allah himself. So now, Noble Drew Ali came. He came in 1913. He came in 1913 because Allah sent him with the methodology that's conducive to our growth and our development. And the only way that we could deal with reparation, or in order for us to deal with what I'm talking about, you have to be who you are and who your forefathers were. And that's Moorish. Because when we went in Spain in 711, stayed in Spain until 1492, during that time, who was we? When we was in Spain, who were we? Now, we who our forefathers were, and say, man, today is what his forefathers were yesterday, then where did this Negro, colored, and black come from? So if we're talking about dealing with reparation, the first thing we have to do, because that's why I know what Drew Ali say, one prophet, one temple, and one nation. This is what he said. And in order for you to even think about reparation, in order for you to try to apply any kind of science dealing with reparation, the first thing we have to do, we have to go back to who we were and who our forefathers were. Because like I say, when you begin to talk about the Moors going into Spain in 711, and we talking about giving Europe civilization. But there is a subject matter. There's a subject matter at hand, and it's going to be a lot of years before we can deal with this subject matter. And the reason why that is because a lot of us who call ourselves Moors or Negro and colored and black, we are not citizens of any government. Because when we went into Spain in 711, we was known as Moors. We was talking about the Moorish kingdom. We talking about the Moorish empire. And we was talking about who our forefathers were. Because as I said earlier, man today is what his forefathers were yesterday. And there's no one who is able to change man from the decent nature of his mother and father unless his power extend beyond the great universal creator, Allah himself. So now Noble Drew Ali. Let me stop for a minute, and I'm going to give you some signs about this holy prophet, Noble Drew Ali. When Noble Drew Ali came from the great God Allah, the first thing he said, the citizens of all free national governments, according to their national constitution, are all of one family bearing one free national name. Those who fail to recognize the free national name of their constitutional government are classed as undesirables and is subject to all inferior named abuses and mistreatment that the citizens care to bestow upon them. And it is a sin for any group of people to violate the national constitutional laws of a free national government and cling to the name and principles that delude to slavery. So now everybody is talking about reparation. I heard Brother Lynch-Bey and the Grand Sheik talk about reparation. Why? Because this is something that Noble Drew Ali bought. Noble Drew Ali bought it, but ain't nobody talking about it. And until you start talking about who you are and who your forefathers were, there's going to be no reparation. Because when you went into Spain in 711, you was a Moor. And when you was put in slavery in 1492, you was a Moor. And these names was given to slaves by slaveholders in 1779 and lasted until 1865 during the time of slavery. This is why the Holy Prophet Noble Drew Ali, he said, with us, all members must proclaim their nationality. And we're teaching our people their nationality and their divine creed, that they may know that they are part and parcel of this said government, and know that they are not Negroes, colored folks, black people, or Ethiopians, because these names were given to slaves by slaveholders in 1779 and lasted until 1865 during the time of slavery. But this is a new era of time now, and all men now must proclaim their free national name to be recognized by the government in which they live and the nations of the earth. This is the reason why Allah, the great God of the universe, ordained Noble Drew Ali the prophet to redeem his people from their sinful ways. The Moorish Americans are descendants of the ancient Moabites who inhabited the northwestern and southwestern shores of Africa. Now look at this. Now this is real important here. When you begin to talk about the Moors, Moors are Muslims. And a Muslim is one who submits his will to Allah. And in the Moorish Science Temple of America, how do we submit our will to Allah? We submit our will to Allah by living according to love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. We love our brothers and sisters. We tell them the truth, that they live in peace, have freedom, and justice will come to us all. So now the prophet is talking. He said, when you uplift the brother, he said you uplift the individual. He said, but when you uplift the sister, you uplift the nation. Why? Because through her womb, humanity comes. So now the book's saying that when you uplift the brother, it's only an individual. But when you uplift the sister, it's a nation, because she is the first teacher. The woman is the one to blow your food, make sure that it's warm enough for you to eat, and etc., etc., etc. But because we failed during the advent of slavery, and because they put something on me that they didn't put on you, your lessons are a little different than mine. The sister right now is the first teacher. And the first thing you have to teach your sister is that when we went in Spain in 711, when we went in Spain in 711, we was Muslims. And there were certain things that we didn't do because we was living according to the Muslim law. But now you look at it. You look at a brother and you look at the nation. So the sister, you the first teacher. All those things that you're doing now, all those things that you was doing at the advent of slavery, You got to give all that stuff back. You have to teach the babies that's coming up before us. And the only way we're going to change, the sister going to have to be the first one. You're going to have to tell the man that you know what Drew Ali said. We don't supposed to do this, and we don't supposed to do that. And what we're taking on the concepts, and we're taking on the ideologies of somebody else. Because everywhere I go, every day, all I hear, we black people need to come together. Who is black? Come together for what? The only black flag I know is the one that killed roaches. And if we call ourselves Negro, colored, and black, reparation is not on location. It's not the order of the day. So this is why the Holy Prophet, Noble Drew Ali, came. He came to redeem us from our sinful ways and to warn us of the great wrath which is sure to come upon the earth. So there is a wrath, and the wrath is upon us now. But the sister is the first teacher now, because they have to raise us back up because of what we done. Because we have done things that's diametrically opposed with the great God Allah has told us. Now I want to read something in this book before I continue. And the title of this chapter is The Holy Instructions of Unity. And we want to talk about some holy instructions of unity because it's important. And I'm going to read until I stop. Page 36. The gifts of the understanding are the treasures of Allah. And he appointed to everyone his portion in what measure seemeth good unto himself. Hath he endowed thee with wisdom? Hath he enlightened thy mind with the knowledge of truth? Communicated to the ignorant for their instruction? Communicated to the wise for thine own improvement. True wisdom is less presuming than folly. The wise man doubteth often and changes his mind. The fool is obstinate and doubteth not. He knoweth all things but his own ignorance. The pride of emptiness is an abomination, and to talk much is the foolishness of folly. Nevertheless, it is the part of wisdom to hear with patience their impertinence and to pity their absurdities. Yet be not puffed up in thine own conceit, neither boast of superior understanding. The clearest human knowledge is but blindness and folly. The wise man feeleth his imperfection and is humble. He laboreth in vain for his own approbation. But the fool peepeth in the shadow streams of his own mind, and is pleased with the pebbles which he seeth at the bottom. He bringeth them up, and showeth them as pearls, and with the applause of his brethren delighteth himself. He boasteth of attainment in this things that are of no worth, but where it is a shame to be ignorant, there he have no understanding. Even in the path of wisdom he toileth after folly, and shame and disappointment are the reward of his labor. But the wise man cultivates his mind with knowledge. The improvement of the arts is his delight, and the utility to the public crowned him with honor. Nevertheless, the attainment of virtues he accomplishes as the highest learning, and the science of happiness is the study of his life. And this is something that Noble Drew Ali brought us. He brought us this because he knew that we needed this to redeem us from our sinful ways and to warn us of the great wrath which is sure to come upon the earth. So Noble Drew Ali came in 1913. And when he came in 1913, he brought us something that we needed to save us from the wrath of Allah. And how can you bring us something to save us from the wrath of Allah? Only by teaching us to be ourselves. We have to be ourselves and learn ourselves. Now, when we begin to study history, I'm not talking about his story, I'm talking about when we begin to talk about history. When we begin to study history, we understand that when you talk about Africa, which is the cradle of civilization, And all through Africa, there was tribes, there's kingdoms. There have been many different names. But one thing that you can't take away is who you are and who your forefathers were. Because man today is what his forefathers were yesterday. And this is why Allah sent Noble Ali. He's sent Noble Ali to redeem us from our sinful ways, because without a nationality, you have no place that a citizen is bound to respect. You can't take this to the UN. You can't take this to the UN until you become who you are and who your forefathers were. We've been saying this for years, and we don't even recognize it today. All of us is talking about we as black people, we as Negroes, we as colored. See, all of them is the same. They're attributes. There's attributes that was put on you and me to stop us from excelling in our own blessing. What I mean by blessing, you are not blessed as long as you call yourself Negro, colored, and black. Now, we were with some brothers and sisters today. I met a lot of them when I first got here in Portland, Oregon. Sometimes they come to the temple, sometimes they don't. Sometimes they don't want to come, and sometimes they do. But when we talking about reparation, this is they, because you Ali said, many are called, a few are chosen, and some are sent. So if you proclaim your nationality, which is Moorish American, and we are Moorish American because we are descendants of Moroccans and born in America, and these Moroccans are the descendants of the ancient Moabites who inhabited the northwestern and southwestern shores of Africa. And these Moabites are the biblical sons and daughters of Ham, one of the three sons of Noah according to the biblical scripture. And this is why we are Hamitic by decent nature by the way of Lot. And Lot is the son of Haran. Haran, Ner, and Abel is the son of Terah. Terah is the son of Reu. Reu is the son of Pelah. Pelah is the son of Eber. Eber is the son of Salah. Salah is the son of Arphaxad, and Arphaxad is the son of Shem. And Noah had three sons, Ham, Shem, and Japheth. And when you begin to talk about Ham, see, because Abraham was not always known as Abraham. He first was Abram, and then he became Abraham. And he became Abraham when he found grace in the eyes of Allah. So this is why you hear every day, every time I run into brothers and sisters who want to talk to me about Noble Drew Ali, you know what Drew Ali said? He said we are a national and divine movement. He said the citizens of all free national governments, according to their national constitution, are all of one family bearing one free national name. See, so we have a national and we have a national descent. And when you begin to talk about your national and your national descent, you talking about nationality and you talking about divine creed. And when you begin to talk about nationality and divine creed, what you are doing, you are hooking us back up with the family of nations. Because everybody in this great melting pot has a nationality except the so-called Negro, colored, and black. And it can be your grandfather. I heard some brothers talking today. They said that the new generation that's coming in, the new children that's growing up, they are missing the mark because those that became before them missed the mark too. And let me explain that to you about that. Because my father, biologically, was born in 1898. I have an aunt that was older than him. And when I begin to listen to them, and they begin to tell me about us as those of Asiatic descents, how we done ran and took the ball, and our people that was before us have grown. But you know what? Before you, our brothers and sisters through the advent of slavery, they was going through some things. They was going through some things, and every generation we become weaker as a people. And when we become weaker as a people, that means that we become somebody else in thought. Because thought is the cause of it all. Everything comes from the thought. This Drew Ali talk about that. Drew Ali told us about thought. He said thought is the cause of it all. But he said through sin and disobedience, he said every nation has suffered slavery due to the fact that they honor not the creed and principles of their mothers and fathers and strayed after the gods of Europe, of whom they knew nothing. So how do one stray after the gods of Europe? See, because if you're Asiatic and Europe is not even in existence, so now during the advent of slavery, you had the Portuguese, you had the French, you had the Dutch, etc. But if you had the Portuguese, the French, and the Dutch, where do the word white come from? Because Drew Ali said white means purity. Purity means God. And God means the ruler of the land. So now, if you call yourself white, you are not honoring your mother and father. And you have strayed after the gods of Europe, of whom they knew nothing, but they gave you the title white because white means purity. Purity means God. And God means the ruler of the land. But you took on the title white. And you give me a title of black. So now I'm black. And I'm black because I'm dark hued. So you say. But when you call yourself white and you call me black, then what you have done is violated the law of God. Because everybody on this top side planet mud has a nationality. Nationality is the order of the day. Nationality hooks you back up with the family of nations. When we begin to talk about the Moors, and I told you earlier on this show that we were talking about kingdoms. We were talking about nations. You have Moors from everywhere, many different nationalities. What these Europeans have done, they took over. They took everything. They took your land. They took your culture. They took everything. So now we talking about Queen Isabella. And we talking about Ferdinand. And when you talking about Queen Isabella, and when you talking about Ferdinand, and when you talk about those who took from you and gave you what they wanted to do, so ain't no such thing right now as reparation. The first thing we have to do is learn who we are and who our forefathers were. You need to get you a Moorish Holy Quran. First thing we do, because we're in the process. This thing ain't gonna be overnight. You got to get into this Moorish Holy Quran and study everything that Noble Drew Ali brought us because it helps you change. It changes you from a dead state to a living perpendicular. That's why I know Drew Ali tells about the citizens of all free national government, according to the national constitution, are all over here. In this chapter, know thyself and thy father, God Allah. Listen to this. It said the genealogy of Jesus with 18 years of the events, life, works, and teachings in India, Europe, and Africa. These events occurred before he was 30 years of age. The secret lessons are for all those who love Jesus. See, now let me stop right here because they got us going crazy. They have us looking for Jesus and not knowing that Jesus means justice. And justice is dealing upright, equal, and fair. So we talking about Jesus now. And whenever you see a Moorish American, they study in the Moorish Science Temple of America, because if you don't have a nationality and a divine creed, really, you're part of those who's talking about I'm back. Because Drew Ali is back because Allah sent him back. See? He said whenever nations is in need of a prophet, Allah will send one. So he sent us Noble Drew Ali. And Noble Drew Ali brought us everything and told us everything that it takes to save a nation. He said, now take it and save yourself. And I'm going to complete this chapter and then talk about something else. It said, dear readers, do not falsely use these lessons. They are for good, peace, and happiness for all those that love Jesus. It said, dear mothers, teach these lessons to your little ones that they may learn to love instead of hate. Dear fathers, by these lessons you can set your house in order, and your children will learn to love instead of hate. The lessons of this pamphlet are not for sale, but for the sake of humanity, as I am a prophet, and the servant is worthy of his hire. You can receive this pamphlet at expense. The reason these lessons have not been known is because the Muslims of India, Egypt, and Palestine had these secrets and kept them back from the outside world. And when the time appointed by Allah, they loosened the keys. And for the first time in ages, these secrets have been delivered in the hands of the Muslims of America. All authority and rights of publisher of this pamphlet, 1927. The industrial acts of the Muslims of Northwest and Southwest Africa. These are the Moabites, Hamathites, and Canaanites, who were driven out of the land of Canaan by Joshua and received permission from the pharaohs of Egypt to settle in that portion of Egypt. In later years, they formed themselves kingdoms. These kingdoms are called this day Morocco, Algiers, Tunis, and Tripoli. See, this is what Allah sent Noble Jew Ali to redeem you and me from our sinful ways. So now we can't talk about this national and divine movement, because this national and divine movement stands for the Pacific Grand Principle of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. And we have to tell our brothers and sisters the truth and teach them who they are and who their forefathers were. But if you are not calling yourself Moorish, if you're not calling yourself Asiatic, then you are outside of the constitutional fold and you have no rights that a citizen is bound to respect. So now, when we join the Moorish Science Temple, it says we have a divine and we have a national movement. But when you find some the contrary, because you had some other people who didn't listen to the Holy Prophet Noble Jew Ali when he told us about our divine and national movement. So not only did Noble Jew Ali tell us about our nationality, he told us about our divine creed too. And when you tell him about nationality and divine creed, he's bringing us something back to hook us back up with the family of nations and to put us back in tune with Allah. This is why you look in this Quran. Everything that you go through in life, every trial and tribulation that you're trying to overcome and be like the sun, is right here in the book. Let me show you what I mean. Let me show you right here what I mean, because this is what Noble Jew Ali gave to us. I'm going to read from chapter 45. And chapter 45 is something. Now, if you don't have a Moorish Quran, all you have to do is get in touch with me. And I'll make sure that you get the basic literature that Noble Jew Ali brought us. And the reason why I'm saying that is, before I read it, is because we was talking about some Circle 7s the other day. And you had a lot of brothers that wanted Circle 7. But in the ancient days, the only way that you could really even get a Circle 7, you have to know your divine constitution and bylaws. You have to know your additional laws. You have to know your questionnaire. And you have to have a basic understanding of what Noble Jew Ali brought us. Because if you don't have an understanding, because understanding is the rock on which man builds himself. But if you don't have an understanding of what Prophet Noble Jew Ali brought us, then you can't even talk about it. That's why he said the citizens of all free national governments, according to their national constitution, are all of one family, bearing one free national name. And those who fail to recognize the free national name of their constitutional government are classed as undesirables and is subject to all inferior names, abuses, and mistreatment that the citizens care to bestow upon them. Now I will read chapter 45. It says, the fallen sons and daughters of the Asiatic nations of North America need to learn to love instead of hate, and to know of his higher self and lower self. This is the uniting of the Holy Quran of Mecca for the teaching and instructing all Moorish Americans, etc. The key of civilization was and is in the hands of the Asiatic nation, the Moorish, who were the ancient Moabites and the founder of the holy city of Mecca. The Egyptians, who were the Hammatites and a direct descendant of Mizraim. The Arabians, the seed of Hagar, Japanese and Chinese. The Hindus of India, the descendants of the ancient Canaanite, Hittites, and Moabites from the land of Canaan. The Asiatic nations of North, South, and Central America. The Brazilians. Now, I want to look right here on verse 5. It said the Asiatic nations of North, South, and Central America, the Moorish Americans, and the Mexicans of North America, the Brazilians, Argentinians, and Chileans in South America. Now, we talking about Brazil. It says the Negro River. Where is the Negro River? And we looking on here, and we see Brazil. And we know what the prophet said about Brazil. But when you study Brazil, you're talking about West Africa. Most of this land mass that we're talking about today was yours and mine. But through the advent of slavery after 1492, especially during the 1500s when the European era come in, Christian era age came in the 15th century. Because we fell in 1492. So when we failed in 1492, that meant that we moved from here, there, and everywhere, and somebody else moved in where we moved out. So this is why we can't talk about reparation, because we have no understanding of reparation. Because understanding is the rock on which man builds himself. So through the Moorish sign, and we got a good Grand Sheik. We got a good Grand Sheik, Brother R. Jones Bay. This brother good. He knows his lesson. He come up when he first come in, he was around Hatchet Bay and all these brothers, and they know a lot of stuff. So it's important that you listen to what the Holy Prophet Noble Ali said, because he is in control. And he told us, man today is what his forefathers were yesterday. And there is no one who is able to change man from the decent nature of his mother and father unless his power extends beyond the great universal creator, Allah himself. So there's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of stuff that Noble Ali bought that we haven't even begun to talk about yet. Why? Because it ain't even time yet. Right now, we're trying to learn to love instead of hate, and we're trying to know about our nationality and our divine creed. One time, I want to talk about the national side, and I want to talk about the divine side. That's ludicrous. National and international conjoining, making you Moorish American. There's a brother that reminds me of Moorish Home Number 1, and some lessons that we are given about these particular people. And Noble Ali, I was reading something in the paper, and the Holy Prophet Noble Ali disbanded the Supreme Council because there are those that want to come in the back door and tell them that we don't want to study nothing about religion. We don't want to study anything about Jesus. But when you understand Jesus, because Jesus is of the true blood of the ancient Canaanites and Moabites and inhabitants of Africa. So we all got to learn about Jesus. Because you done took my Jesus. You done buried him in Vatican Square, and you done took on the name. So now we're talking again about nationality. We're talking again about hooking us back up with the family of nations. I have some brothers around me now, and they're good brothers. Because, see, I joined the Moorish Temple yesterday, but today I don't want to be a Moorish American because certain things I can't do. I'll come back later on. But you can't serve two masters at the same time. None of us can serve two masters at the same time. You have to love one and you have to despise the other. So now I say that I'm a member of the Moorish Temple of America, and if that's the case, I have to study my nationality and I have to study my divine creed. But when you begin to talk about this divine creed, you're going into the spirit. You're going into the spirit because man today is what his forefathers were yesterday. And there's no one who is able to change man from the decent nature of his mother and father unless his power extends beyond the great universal creator, Allah himself. So who are you? We're Moorish Americans. Why are we Moorish Americans? We are Moorish Americans because we are descendants of Moroccans and born in America. And who are these Moroccans? They are the descendants of the ancient Moabites who inhabited the northwestern and southwestern shores of Africa. And this is what Allah sent Noble Drew Ali to redeem to us from our sinful ways and to warn us of the great wrath which is sure to come upon the earth. So Allah is in control. Allah is in control, and his holy prophet Noble Drew Ali is in control. When you hear people talking about the Moorish Science Temple of America, you hear people are talking about the Moabites. And who are the Moabites? Who are the Hittites? Who are the Canaanites? And all these brothers was a part of the Moroccan Empire. That's why when we hear brothers and when we hear sisters talking about the Moroccan Empire, they fail to understand that everybody that's a part of the Moroccan Empire, some of them call themselves Hebrew, and some of them call themselves close to the Hebrew or Israelite. But you know what? That is your religion, and that is the religion that you took on. And there's nothing wrong with that, because most of the Moorish Americans that I come in tune with through my studies, most of them was that. They was the Hebrews, etc. But their nationality was Moorish. See? We're not talking about your religion now. Your religion could be all that, because when you begin to talk about religion, you're talking about the Moorish Americans anyway. Because no one else had a religious order. No one else talking about the Spirit of God but Drew Ali. Because he brought us back what was lost. And he redeemed us from our sinful ways. Because it is a sin for any group of people to violate the national constitutional laws of a free national government and cling to the name and principles that delude to slavery. And what are the principles that delude to slavery? Hatred, slander, lewdness, murder, theft, and everything that harm, and are the attributes of hatred, Lucifer, slander, devil, dragon, and beast. And these are the attributes of those that's outside of the Constitution. And how can you be outside the Constitution? Well, you're outside the Constitution when you ain't talking about nationality and when you ain't talking about divine creed. This is why Allah sent Noble Drew Ali to redeem his people from their sinful ways. And the Moorish Americans are descendants of the ancient Moabite. We're not talking about the present day Moabite. We're talking about the ancient Moabite. And the reason why we're talking about the ancient Moabite, because of what took place, what I said, the President Obama and Hillary Clinton. They come on the air and they talk about Morocco being the first nation to have a treaty with the United States. We know something ludicrous about that picture. Something is wrong with it. Something is wrong with it because Drew Ali told us something is wrong with it. He says it's a sin for any group of people to violate the national constitutional laws of a free national government and cling to the name and principles that allude to slavery. So it's a sin for you and me to violate these divine laws by calling ourselves something that we are not. So now I have two. They say you were 3/5 of a man. Yes, we were 3/5 of a man. You 3/5 of a man because 2/5 was missing. And what are the 2/5 that was missing? Your nationality and your divine creed. And Drew Ali brought us back our nationality and our divine creed, that we may know who our forefathers were and know that we are not Negroes, colored folks, black people, or Ethiopians, because these names were given to slaves by slaveholders in 1779 and lasted to 1865 during the time of slavery. He said, but this is a new era of time now, and all men now must proclaim their free national name to be recognized by the government in which they live and the nations of the earth. I remember when I grew up and I went to school. And when I was in school, you didn't hear nobody calling themselves black at that time. We was Negroes and we was colored. And colored is anything that has been painted, stained, varnished, or dyed, or tinted. So now we see that we're not colored. And we see that we're not Negroes, because Negro is a name given to a river in West Africa by Moors because it contained black water. And where's that river at again? It's in Brazil. And when you look in Brazil, all you see is those of African descent. But he gave us these names, and they telling us they come out of Brazil in this slavery. So we need to start taking time out and get this Moorish literature that Noble Drew Ali bought, because you have people talking about some national side and not the national and divine side, so that means that 2/5 are missing. 5/5 is a whole all day. So you 3/5, but 2/5 are missing. And when you begin to understand what these other 2/5 are, because we're talking about reparation. And in order for us to deal with reparation, the first thing we have to do is understand that there's a Moorish Science Temple of America, divinely prepared by the noble prophet Drew Ali for our earthly and our divine salvation. So 2/5 are missing. And if you don't proclaim your nationality inside of the Moorish Science Temple of America, then you have no rights that a citizen is bound to respect. Allah sent Drew Ali. He sent Noble Drew Ali in 1913. In 1913, mostly all of the brothers and sisters that we're here talking, we'll complete this next week. So at this time, I'd like to close out with the Moorish American prayer, but putting this on hold till next week. Allah, the Father of the universe, the Father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Allah is my protector, my guide, and my salvation, by night and by day, through his holy prophet, Drew Ali. Amen. Wade in the water, wade in the water, Martin, wade.